The first signals of alarm were subtle, almost imperceptible to the Galactic Council, dismissed as routine cosmic disturbances. Yet on Earth, humanity had been watching for decades with patience, caution, and an understanding born from centuries of conflict and survival, sensing that something beyond the known stars had begun to take interest in the solitary blue planet. An interest that had gone unnoticed by every interstellar species that believed themselves far superior, arrogantly confident in their ability to subdue or manipulate a species that had not yet expanded beyond its home system, unaware that humanity's strength lay not in sheer numbers or visible technology, but in adaptability, strategy, and an instinctive resilience honed over millennia of surviving a volatile world and unpredictable neighbors, as Dr. Elena Torres monitored the gravitational anomalies near Proxima Centauri, her mind racing through possible scenarios, data streaming across her station as patterns emerged, suggesting an advanced probe network had quietly mapped the solar system long before any official recognition, and across continents, scientists, military strategists, and engineers were quietly coordinating through untraceable networks, preparing contingency plans that humanity itself barely understood in their entirety. For the first time since the dawn of the atomic age, the world had united in secret, driven not by politics, but by a shared instinct that the galaxy's casual indifference to human potential could not last forever, and when the Council of Xyphari dismissed the early warnings, labeling them paranoid and inconsequential, humans had already begun to implement measures that would make centuries of interstellar arrogance collapse in mere hours. Fleets of modular ships, each engineered for rapid deployment and capable of self-repair beyond the capacity of known alien technology, were stationed in orbit, cloaked by fields that refracted observation scans, while on the ground, electromagnetic arrays and quantum comm networks thrummed with silent energy, an invisible pulse that would act as both shield and weapon, the first stage of humanity's plan to respond not with brute force but with calculated precision, revealing their strength only when absolutely necessary. And yet, even as humanity watched, waited, and prepared, the aliens proceeded with their usual condescension, sending reconnaissance vessels, diplomatic envoys with hollow threats, and demands for subjugation, oblivious to the fact that every step they took was being catalogued, analyzed, and counted in ways that leveraged human ingenuity, environmental adaptability, and psychological cunning. For humanity had learned that raw power could be deceptive, that patience and perception often outweighed technology alone, and that the appearance of vulnerability could be a trap far deadlier than any frontal assault. And in the capital city of what humans still called Earth, President Samuel Obote stood before the newly convened Global Council, speaking in measured tones about the threats the world would soon face, carefully choosing words that would convey readiness without panic. His speech broadcast secretly to Allied systems and clandestine observers on alien outposts, explaining that humanity would respond, but on its own terms, with a precision, unity, and strategic foresight that no galactic empire had anticipated. And as the first of the councils, inspection ships approached the outer planets, they were met not by a disorganized planet of primitives, but by synchronized defensive networks, silent orbital mines, and decoy signals designed to mislead and test, all of which provided data that humans had been gathering for decades in preparation for this exact moment, proving that the warnings had been ignored at their peril, and that the galaxy would soon understand, with a clarity none could deny, that underestimating humanity was the gravest error any civilization could commit, a lesson about to be delivered with precision, inevitability, and consequences measured not in negotiation but in irreversible revelation, as humanity's quiet preparation began its transition from subtle deterrence to undeniable force, setting the stage for the confrontation that would redefine interstellar understanding and demonstrate, beyond doubt, that the species the galaxy had dismissed as inconsequential would not only survive, but dominate, not through conquest for conquest's sake, but through an unwavering assertion of strategic, moral, and technological superiority, a combination that even the most advanced alien minds had failed to comprehend. And as the sun rose over Earth, unnoticed by the distant observers who believed the planet safe, the first signals of humanity's wrath were transmitted, invisible, encoded, and devastating. An awakening that had been long anticipated by no one but humans themselves, who had chosen the perfect moment to reveal that they had never been what anyone thought they were, and that now the galaxy would face the full weight of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The initial reactions across the galaxy were predictable, a mix of confusion, disbelief, and the kind of condescending amusement that had allowed humanity to go unnoticed for so long. The Xyphari delegation had arrived at the fringes of the solar system expecting compliance, a routine inspection of a planet they assumed was technologically inferior, and what they encountered instead was subtle, precise manipulations of space itself, gravitational distortions, and sensor echoes that suggested fleets far larger than they actually were. And as their ships attempted to broadcast haughty messages demanding explanation and obedience, the humans responded with countermeasures that revealed not only awareness but a level of strategic sophistication that no alien intelligence had predicted: electronic signals that disable critical navigation systems, communications loops that trap crews in endless cycles of their own messages, and holographic decoys that made it impossible to determine the true scale of humanity's deployment, all executed without a single shot fired, a quiet storm of precision and psychological pressure designed to demonstrate control while minimizing unnecessary casualties. While on Earth, scientists in hidden laboratories monitored each response with anticipation, feeding real-time data to the commanders orchestrating the planetary defenses, and as the aliens attempted to regroup, they discovered that their probe networks had been compromised long before. Their arrival, every anomaly and anomaly report cross-referenced and neutralized, leaving the Xyphari scrambling to understand what they had dismissed as primitive intelligence, and across allied systems, humanity's reach became visible in other subtle ways: automated rescue operations for stranded colonies, repair drones capable of instantaneously restoring damaged vessels, and rapid response strike units that could appear anywhere within hours, all coordinated through a quantum network that rendered alien attempts to interfere virtually useless, revealing not just tactical brilliance but a level of interconnectivity and foresight that made humans seem omnipresent, a species whose strength lay in patience, planning, and an uncanny ability to turn apparent weakness into overwhelming advantage. While back on Earth, leaders debated the timing of the next phase, weighing the cost of exposure against the necessity of teaching the galaxy that ignoring humanity's warnings came with consequences. And as the Xyphari finally attempted a frontal maneuver, they found themselves ensnared in carefully laid orbital traps, gravity wells, and countermeasures designed to disable propulsion systems, while automated drones struck precisely at critical points, dismantling defensive grids, disabling weapons platforms, and forcing alien crews to experience the first taste of real fear, a sensation they had long associated with species they considered inferior. And as panic spread through the command centers of multiple alien civilizations who had been monitoring the unfolding events from afar, reports of miraculous technological failures and inexplicable strategic advantages began to circulate, feeding into a growing realization that humanity had anticipated, prepared, and mastered every conceivable method of observation, infiltration, and defense, turning centuries of underestimation into a tactical masterpiece that revealed the planet's true capabilities. And in the midst of this chaos, Earth's own leadership remained calm, their confidence derived from the knowledge that every possible contingency had been accounted for, every weakness mitigated, and that the galaxy's arrogance had sealed its own fate, setting the stage for the next act, where humanity would transition from covert superiority to overt assertion of dominance. A calculated escalation designed to ensure that no civilization would ever doubt the consequences of ignoring the warnings, and that the species they had dismissed would now define the terms of engagement across the stars, asserting not just military might but the clarity of strategic genius that had allowed them to remain hidden, patient, and lethal until the moment the galaxy itself demanded recognition. By the time the Xyphari realized the true scope of humanity's preparation, it was already too late for simple retreat or negotiation. The solar system had become a fortress unlike any they had ever encountered, a network of orbital platforms, cloaked frigates, and automated defenses that seemed to anticipate every possible maneuver, and as alien warships attempted coordinated strikes, they found themselves funneled into corridors of gravitational distortion, where their energy weapons misfired. Propulsion systems faltered, and their once confident fleets were torn apart by unseen forces, each engagement a meticulously choreographed demonstration of human foresight. And on Earth, military leaders coordinated with scientists and engineers in real time, adjusting orbital arrays, deploying rapid response units, and manipulating sensor feedback to create illusions of overwhelming numbers, forcing alien commanders to make mistakes under the pressure of apparent numerical inferiority, while political leaders, ambassadors, and intelligence officers worked behind the scenes to intercept communications, spread disinformation, and exploit every cultural assumption the aliens had made about human psychology, revealing not only technical superiority but profound understanding of strategy, deception, and the power of unpredictability. And as news of defeat spread to distant systems, other galactic powers who had watched humanity as a curiosity began to reconsider their assumptions, dispatching their own reconnaissance vessels only to find the same invisible traps, hidden fleets, and rapid response networks that seemed to emerge from nowhere, erasing the advantage of advanced alien technology through coordinated, multi-layered tactics that relied as much on human ingenuity as on engineering. And in a hidden orbital command center, Commander Amina Patel surveyed the cascading results of humanity's plan, knowing that each alien misstep was a testament not just to preparation, but to the adaptability, resilience, and decisive action that had defined the species for centuries. While on Earth, scientists monitored energy signatures of alien engines as they faltered, decoded transmissions filled with panic, and prepared the next stage of deployment, ensuring that every maneuver was counted before it could even begin, all while maintaining the illusion of deliberate patience and control, a psychological weapon that compounded the physical dominance being displayed. And, as fleets attempted to escape trajectories, they encountered human rescue and extraction units, redeploying captured technology, repairing critical systems, and leaving alien crews awed and terrified of the scope of a civilization that had remained underestimated for so long. And across the galaxy, reports of these encounters triggered widespread shock, discussions in council chambers, and urgent debates about the potential consequences of having ignored humanity for centuries. And yet, on Earth, life continued with a quiet determination, as if the planet itself understood that this demonstration of power was necessary not for conquest, but to correct the balance, to ensure that the galaxy would recognize the species it had long dismissed as inconsequential. And as the first large-scale alien counterattacks began to falter, it became clear that humanity had orchestrated not just a defense but a symphony of strategy, deception, and precise action that would irrevocably alter galactic perceptions, proving beyond question that the species who had been underestimated, mocked, and ignored was now the axis upon which interstellar diplomacy, conflict, and survival would revolve, and that the era of human vulnerability had ended, replaced by an era where every decision, every move, and every miscalculation by alien civilizations would carry consequences carefully calculated by minds that had long mastered patience, ingenuity, and the lethal efficiency of restraint now converted into action. The moment had come for humanity to move from precise defense to decisive offense, and as the Xyphari fleet struggled to recover from the meticulous traps, Earth command centers orchestrated a coordinated strike unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, fleets emerging from cloaked positions in near-perfect synchrony, drones and frigates deploying in formations designed to overwhelm even the most advanced alien tactical algorithms, and the first volleys were not aimed to destroy but to demonstrate mastery, disabling weapons arrays, severing communications, and neutralizing propulsion systems while leaving alien crews alive to witness the scale of human capability, a message both terrifying and unmistakable, that resistance would be futile. Yet the human strategy was not blind aggression but carefully calculated escalation, as specialized units deployed across key points in nearby star systems, freeing colonies, repairing failing infrastructure, and establishing secure, staging areas for further operations, while simultaneously gathering intelligence on every galactic player who had once underestimated Earth, and in every control room across human fleets, officers and scientists adjusted parameters in real time, synchronizing strikes, cloaking maneuvers, and decoy signals, creating the impression of omnipresence, making alien commanders question reality itself. And as news of these operations spread through intercepted communications, panic swept across multiple civilizations, once confident species suddenly aware that they had misjudged humans in ways that would cost them dearly, while back on Earth, civilians watched in awe and quiet fear, unaware of the full complexity of the operations, yet instinctively understanding that the planet they had long taken for granted was now asserting itself with unparalleled precision and power, and in diplomatic channels. The remnants of alien envoys scrambled to formulate responses, only to discover that every attempt at negotiation, every plea for mercy had been anticipated and neutralized by human intelligence networks, revealing not only technical superiority but psychological insight, as if humans could read intentions before they were even conceived, and across the galaxy, those who had attempted to exploit humanity now found themselves trapped in webs of influence, sabotage, and strategic dominance that left them helpless to act without consequence, while historians and analysts in secret human councils studied ancient texts, cultural patterns, and previous mistakes of alien civilizations, ensuring that every move was informed by centuries of observation, giving humanity a tactical advantage grounded not just in technology but in understanding, empathy, and cunning. And as the offensive escalated, key systems once believed invulnerable fell into human hands, either through precision strikes or negotiated surrender under duress, demonstrating that the galaxy's conventional notions of power were obsolete when faced with a species that combined ingenuity, foresight, and unyielding determination. And in the midst of it all, Commander Amina Patel and her team orchestrated the largest single deployment yet, a massive fleet appearing simultaneously at multiple points, forcing the Xyphari to split their forces, make desperate calculations, and ultimately realize the futility of resistance, as entire armadas of alien vessels were systematically neutralized or captured, every move serving as a lesson in the consequences of hubris. And as the dust settled, the galaxy watched in stunned silence, communications networks filled with shock and awe, and on Earth, leaders quietly acknowledged that humanity had achieved something beyond mere victory, a revelation of capability and resolve that would ensure no species, however advanced, would ever underestimate humans again, and that the warnings that had been ignored for centuries were now carved into the consciousness of the stars themselves, a truth that would resonate across light years and decades, proving that humanity's wrath, calculated, precise, and inevitable, was a force unlike any other, born from patience, resilience, and the unshakable understanding that the galaxy had crossed a line it would never live to forget. With the Xyphari fleets in disarray and other galactic powers beginning to reassess their assumptions, humanity shifted into a phase of methodical consolidation, not merely destroying opposition, but restructuring the theater of conflict to highlight their unmatched strategic genius. Orbital command centers coordinated the repair and fortification of liberated colonies while simultaneously deploying human engineers to reverse alien sabotage, ensuring every system reclaimed became a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, and every intercepted communication, every captured vessel, was leveraged to create psychological pressure, broadcasting precise demonstrations of technological mastery, coordinated defenses, and rapid response capabilities, forcing remaining alien forces to confront the uncomfortable reality that humanity was no longer a peripheral species but a central player whose reach extended across the stars. And on 8th, President Samuel Obote oversaw operations with measured authority, convening scientific, military, and diplomatic minds to plan subsequent phases, ensuring that every action served a dual purpose, securing human interests and instilling recognition of human capability, while alien envoys, once dismissive, now scrambled to comprehend the scale of miscalculation, their once unwavering confidence replaced by doubt, fear, and desperate attempts to regroup. Yet each move it made was anticipated, counted, and incorporated into humanity's broader strategy, revealing a level of foresight that left alien commanders questioning their own assumptions and lamenting the centuries of ignorance that had led to this point. And as fleets repaired, redeployed, and established controlled zones of influence, human scientists revealed selective technological superiority to the galaxy, sharing only what was strategically advantageous, enough to demonstrate mastery without relinquishing core secrets, while simultaneously implementing defensive and observational systems that would render future surprise attacks virtually impossible, ensuring that humanity could act with the full weight of knowledge, preparation, and tactical dominance. And across liberated systems, local populations, both human and allied species, witnessed the precision, discipline, and care with which humanity conducted its operations, fostering respect, cooperation, and allegiance, further solidifying influence without coercion. And in hidden research stations, elite teams analyzed alien fleets, cultural hierarchies, and technological networks, preparing contingency strategies for every conceivable scenario, understanding that restraint could be just as powerful as direct action. And as reports of captured alien leaders, disabled fleets, and restored colonies reached the Galactic Council, panic spread not just among the Xyphari but across allied and observing civilizations. The lesson clear: humanity was patient, calculating, and in full command of both its assets and its enemies' perceptions, And as Earth's leaders prepared for the next phase, they carefully calibrated the balance between demonstration and escalation, showing just enough power to ensure compliance while preserving the possibility for diplomacy under terms defined exclusively by humans. And throughout every operation, humanity maintained cohesion, morale, and purpose, a unity forged from centuries of survival and collaboration. And as alien civilizations began to fully grasp the consequences of their misjudgment, the galaxy itself seemed to shift, recognizing that the species it had underestimated for generations had emerged not as a victim, but as a decisive force capable of rewriting interstellar norms, demonstrating that patience, strategy, and disciplined execution could overcome assumptions, arrogance, and raw technological might, and that the warnings that had been ignored were now etched indelibly into the collective consciousness of the stars, a cautionary tale written in real time by humans whose wrath, measured and precise, had transformed the balance of power and would define the rules of engagement for generations to come. As the galaxies struggled to absorb the reality of humanity's capabilities, the final phase of the operation began, a combination of overwhelming precision strikes, coordinated psychological pressure, and tactical demonstrations designed not just to neutralize opposition but to ensure that no civilization would ever doubt human supremacy again. And in the outer reaches of the Xyphari sector, fleets that had once approached Earth with arrogance were systematically incapacitated, propulsion systems disabled, weapons rendered useless, and communications hijacked to broadcast their own failures as a warning to others, while simultaneously humans executed rapid extraction and reinforcement of liberated colonies, demonstrating not only military mastery but logistical brilliance, ensuring that every victory reinforced a perception of inevitability. And as alien leaders attempted last-ditch negotiations, they found themselves constrained by human oversight, their movements predicted, their demands preemptively addressed or rendered irrelevant, revealing the true depth of humanity's understanding of strategy, diplomacy, and psychological manipulation. And across multiple star systems, human fleets projected power in visible yet controlled ways, precise orbital maneuvers, synchronized deployments, and calculated appearances conveying both capability and restraint, leaving alien observers in a state of shock, confusion, and fear, realizing that the species they had dismissed as primitive had anticipated every possibility, turned every assumption against them, and now dictated the terms of engagement across the galaxy. And on Earth, leaders, scientists, and strategists coordinated in perfect synchrony, their decisions informed by decades of preparation, cultural insight, and rigorous analysis of alien behavior, creating a level of operational efficiency that rendered conventional alien superiority meaningless, while human engineers and technologists repaired systems, upgraded fleets, and implemented adaptive technologies that could respond instantly to any attempted counterattack, reinforcing perception of human omnipresence. And in the midst of it all, Commander Amina Patel oversaw the orchestration of multi-system operations, each movement a deliberate lesson in strategy, demonstrating that patience, discipline, and foresight were as lethal as weapons themselves. And as alien civilizations began to acknowledge the scale of their miscalculation, reports flooded across the galaxy of ships voluntarily surrendering, colonies seeking human protection, and political factions urging rapid acceptance of new realities, all confirming the irreversible shift in power. And as humans continued to consolidate control, demonstrating mercy alongside dominance, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer to be underestimated, provoked, or ignored, and the consequences of arrogance had been made manifest, a combination of technological brilliance, strategic genius, and the unshakable unity of a species that had endured, evolved, and now commanded the respect of all. And as Earth itself became the epicenter of this new galactic order, the galaxy collectively recognized that a threshold had been crossed, that humanity's patience, foresight, and hidden strength had transformed it from a dismissed civilization into an unchallengeable force, and that from this moment forward, the stars would operate under the implicit understanding that humans, when provoked or underestimated, could deliver consequences with unmatched precision, creativity, and inevitability, reshaping alliances, perceptions, and the very calculus of power for all who had ever dared to ignore the warnings, ensuring that humanity's wrath, carefully measured and decisively applied, would resonate across light years as both a deterrent and a testament to the species' unassailable ingenuity and resolve. With the Xyphari fleets crippled, their colonies secured under human oversight, and the galaxy finally acknowledging the magnitude of its miscalculation, humanity transitioned from demonstration to definitive assertion of dominance, carefully balancing power with restraint, showing that while humans could annihilate, they chose to govern with precision, intelligence, and foresight, and across liberated systems. Human leaders established protocols of protection, communication, and cooperation that reinforced not only their superiority but the principle that civilizations ignoring warnings would face consequences measured with unparalleled clarity, while alien governments scrambled to adapt, forming councils to debate the lessons of defeat, questioning the assumptions that had led them to underestimate a species that had endured millennia of unpredictability on a volatile world, yet found unity, ingenuity, and strategic brilliance capable of outmatching even the most technologically advanced fleets. And on 8th, President Samuel Obote, Commander Amina Patel, and the Global Council oversaw the culmination of decades of planning, their decisions now shaping interstellar politics, economics, and defense, while scientists and engineers continue to expand the reach and capability of human networks, demonstrating that the wrath displayed had not been mere reaction but an intentional, calculated projection of strength, and as captured alien leaders were briefed on humanities, methods, philosophy, and historical patterns. They were forced to confront the reality that they had misjudged resilience, creativity, and tactical genius in a species they had long considered insignificant, and across distant systems. Intelligence reports detail the scope of human operations, the seamless integration of technology and strategy, and the adaptive brilliance that had allowed humanity to not just survive, but dominate the first confrontation with galactic powers, setting a precedent that would echo for generations. And as peace, tenuous yet firmly established under human oversight, spread across the liberated regions, allies and former adversaries alike began to recognize that the lessons humanity had delivered were irreversible, a combination of warning, demonstration, and decisive action that reshaped the galaxy's understanding of power, diplomacy, and consequence. And in quiet moments on Earth, civilians looked to the skies with a mix of awe and pride, understanding that their species had finally fulfilled a destiny long underestimated by the cosmos, a destiny defined not by conquest alone, but by the revelation that patience, ingenuity, and moral resolve could produce a force capable of compelling recognition, respect, and obedience across light years. And as humanity consolidated its influence, the galaxy collectively understood that it had crossed a line it could never return from, that every attempt to ignore, provoke, or underestimate humans would now carry consequences carefully measured, inevitable, and absolute, and that from this day forward, the name Earth and the species it nurtured would be synonymous with capability, resilience, and the unyielding certainty that the wrath of a patient, intelligent, and united humanity would never be forgotten, leaving the galaxy forever aware that warnings ignored were not forgotten but recorded, calculated, and ultimately enforced, proving beyond dispute that humans underestimated, for centuries, had emerged not merely victorious but unchallengeable, their hidden strength fully revealed, their dominance indisputable, and their legacy irrevocably inscribed across the stars.